Ever since childhood, I became a prisoner of my secret. When I was 8, my parents would sometimes leave me home alone, and I wasn't afraid until one of those days when the power went out. It was evening, so I became incredibly scared to be alone in the dark. I ran to what I thought was the safest place, my bed, and covered myself with a blanket. I didn't have a phone back then, so there was only one thing left to do: wait for my parents. I was so anxious that I started crying. Suddenly, the blanket was pulled off of me as if someone had intentionally thrown it off. I froze in shock. A boy my age was standing in front of me, but something was wrong with him. It was as if I could see through him. "Who are you?" I asked. "It all depends on your answer," he said. "What are you doing in my house? And why can I see through you?" "I'm dead, and I'm tired of being alone, so I revealed myself to you." I was stunned by these words. "I'm giving you a choice. You can become my friend. Talk only to me from now on, and ignore everyone else, or I'll destroy you and your parents." A nightmare, a choice without a choice. But I felt that he wasn't joking, so the decision was obvious. I choose friendship, but how will I talk only to you? My parents won't understand and won't believe me. From now on, you'll play the role of an autistic child, communicate only with me, and ignore everyone else. I'm sure that in time, they'll believe you. But don't give yourself away, or the consequences will be irreversible. I had no choice. I was incredibly scared for my parents, so I agreed. Then he smiled and hugged me. "Since you chose me, you have nothing to fear anymore. In return, I'll try to make you smile every day." At first, my parents were bewildered and reacted very negatively to my ignoring them. They yelled at me, tried to snap me out of it. The boy would watch me during these moments and tell me how to behave. When they took me to a psychologist, the boy would make me laugh. He would show horns on the doctor's head or make him big ears with his hands. It was funny. The doctor concluded that my reaction was caused by severe stress, so he recommended not to disturb me for a while. Once my parents accepted it, I felt much calmer. The boy didn't lie to me. We played different games all the time. With his arrival, I forgot about boredom. My parents looked at me as if I were crazy and you could understand them. They couldn't see the boy. What I especially liked was that I no longer had to go to school. After some time, I asked the boy how he became a ghost, but he didn't answer. He just said he didn't remember even his own name. We became soulmates. He really turned every day of mine into a holiday. When we started to trust each other, I asked why I couldn't talk to my parents. He explained that there was a risk they would hear our conversation and might suspect something, find out about him. But if they think it's all in my mind, they won't suspect anything. "And what terrible thing would happen if they found out about you?" I asked. He replied that it would disturb the balance of the worlds, and he didn't know what that could lead to, but it wouldn't be anything good. "Why is it okay for you to talk to me then?" It was clear that it was difficult for the boy to explain. He said he felt that he could reveal himself to one person, but if more than one person sees him, something very bad would definitely happen. When we walked together, we often played on the playground. Sometimes kids would laugh at me, point fingers, and twirl their fingers at their temples. And when someone hurt me, the boy would punish them. He'd push them at the wrong moment, or knock the phone out of their hands so it would break. I didn't feel sorry for the offenders, but what really scared me in those moments was the boy's smile. You could see how much he enjoyed causing pain to others. A couple of years later, I started envying other kids. It hurt that the boy had taken all of this away from me. I wanted new friends, to talk with different people, new emotions, adventures. He seemed to sense that I was getting tired of only talking to him, so he wouldn't leave my side for a second. And that made me feel even worse. I so wanted to be alone without him, but he refused to leave me. My life was turning into hell. My parents then took me to classes for autistic children. There were many kids like me, and I was always tormented by the question, I wonder if they're also trapped, or am I just that unlucky? A few more years passed, and the boy confessed his love for me. I had to play along, but in reality, I desperately wanted him to just disappear. After his confession, he said that we would be together forever. God forbid, I thought. I hope at least death will separate us. After confessing our mutual feelings, and this is terrible, but the boy started following me into the bathroom and shower. The creepiest thing was that when I slept, he stared at me without stopping. And when I woke up, I didn't see the sun, but his insane eyes. One night, he woke me up. He was very nervous, said he needed to leave for a day, and asked me not to be mad at him. I thought it was a wonderful dream, and agreed. Waking up in the morning, I was pleasantly surprised to find myself alone in the room. I was overjoyed. It was probably the best day of my life. But unfortunately, it passed very quickly. In the evening, as I closed my eyes, I so hoped that he would never return. But that night, he woke me up again. I wanted to burst into tears. How I wish he would disappear. He happily said he had a gift for me. He told me he had found a way for us to be together forever. I thought to myself, God forbid that happens. I wanted so badly to yell at him to go away, but I was afraid for my parents. He said he would kill them, so I just listened. You just need to die, the boy said with a slight smile, and then I won't let your spirit leave this world. Cool plan, right? No, of course not. Never, I screamed. He was very surprised and started to persuade me. I kept refusing. It scared and angered me, but he acted like he couldn't hear me. Don't be afraid, he said. I'll help you. It's not scary. It's even fun. How he annoyed me. Only when I started crying did he stop trying to persuade me and suggested we forget about this conversation. I agreed and said I needed to sleep. He, as always, stood in front of my bed and stared at me while I closed my eyes. God, I beg you, save me. I never want to see this boy again. I beg you. I prayed so long and fervently that for a moment I believed everything was fine and opened my eyes again. The boy was still standing there. He happily asked, "Did you wake up?" I replied, "No," and tried to fall asleep again. Over time, I started noticing that the boy was acting strange, always lost in his thoughts. Sometimes he even left me alone. Once during a walk, a guy approached me. He was tall, handsome, and offered to introduce himself and walk together. I wanted so much to reciprocate, but then out of nowhere, the boy appeared again and started telling me what to do. He ordered me to start laughing hysterically and hopping on one leg like a fool. Otherwise, he threatened that I would regret it. I had to obey. I had never been so ashamed. One day, I had to walk up the stairs because the elevator was broken. The boy was following me. Suddenly, I heard his scream and felt a strong push in my back at the same time. I almost fell. He immediately started apologizing, saying he tripped, but I was sure it wasn't an accident. Waking up in the morning, I saw the boy again. How I hated his face. Always pleased, sly, wishing me death. After breakfast, Mom gave me a pill that the doctor had prescribed, but when I tasted an unfamiliar, disgusting flavor in my mouth, I immediately took it out. Looking closely, I recognized the pill. It looked like the one from Dad's garage that he used to poison rats. I threw it on the floor and started screaming, "You switched them, you idiot! I know everything, our deal is off!" He immediately pushed me. Mom got scared and ran for Dad. The boy grabbed a knife and came at me. I ran from him down the hallway, turned the corner, and bumped into Dad. Dad seemed to see the knife floating in the air. "What the hell is this?" he asked. "Dad, save me!" I started screaming. Suddenly, the boy froze and started writhing in pain. From his screams, I understood that the balance of worlds had been disturbed. He burst into flames and disappeared. The knife fell to the floor. I immediately told my parents everything. Dad believed my story, but Mom thinks it was the psychologist who helped, and that it was all thanks to him. I still can't come to terms with the fact that this boy scared me so much with the death of my parents. I should have told them about him earlier. It's a pity I didn't know there was a way to get rid of him. After some time, we moved. I'm finally free and feel like a normal, happy person. The only thing is that after so many years together, I did grow attached to him, and sometimes I miss him, and that scares me.